Flosstube. I'm Amy, I'm the Globetrotting Stitcher, and excited to be back with you today. Today is Sunday, June the 13th, and this is episode number 25. We have been having a pretty rainy Sunday, which is kind of typical for us this time of year. It rains like pretty consistently right up until around July the 4th, and then all of a sudden we have beautiful weather for about 2 months. And then it goes back to raining. So this is kind of par for the course for today. We hope you all have been doing good. We have been pretty busy in these parts, and I think you're going to see that in our stitching update today. It's just there's a lot of things going on in real life right now, and so that always has an impact on how much stitching we're able to get done. Before we get into some of the stitching, just a couple of updates. One thing, in our most recent video, or one of our most recent videos, we joked around about adding Gary as like a floating, fiery, glowing-eyed head at some place in the video.
The short answer is that's version 5. First thing we're going to do is get me on the video, and then I'm going to learn how to manipulate the video. So we're at the learning how to manipulate stage.
Yeah, there's a lot more editing that goes into that, and it was meant to be a joke, but there was so much interest in it that
now we have to do it.
Now we have to do it.
Anyway.
So we'll hopefully be able to insert something along those lines in the near future.
We're gonna figure it
out. He's good at figuring stuff out. Other than that, one of the most exciting things that's happened for me in the last couple of weeks is that my local stitching group was able to have its first in-person meetup since, I think, February of last year. So very, very excited to have that happen. It was so wonderful to reconnect with our local stitching community and to see some faces that I haven't seen in person in a long time. So those of you who watch Becca, she's Sambry Stitches. She's the one who does all of the interview with the Flosstuber episodes. She is the founder of our local stitching group, and so it was great to see her again. Melissa was there. Vicky was there. I know you guys don't know all of these people, but and then we also had somebody new who joined us, and Becca's daughter Sam joined us, and it was really, really lovely to get together again and to spend time together. And so I'm really looking forward to, now that we're kind of getting back into the swing of things and folks are vaccinated and feeling safe again. We're looking forward to more folks coming back and getting to really spend time together. But it was fun. We had a little bit of a mini whip parade with everybody bringing a few things they've been working on recently and showing those. We also had some folks that brought a mini finish parade and shared some things they've gotten completed in recent weeks and months. And so it was lovely. And I really can't wait to see them again. So for those of you that are part of local stitching groups, I hope that your groups are getting to a point where you can start meeting up again soon if you haven't already, because it really is. This is such a special community. And I knew I had missed these ladies, but I think just seeing their faces in person and being able to give hugs really reminded me even more how much I've missed them. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the stitching. We have an FFO to share with you this week. So a few weeks ago, those of you who have been watching us regularly know that Gary finished his Batman. Well, it's actually the official project name is No, but we call it Batman Slap. It's by Happy Sloth Cross Stitch Patterns on Etsy. And Gary stitched this on a 16 count Riviera Coral Aida. So as I said, he finished it a couple of weeks ago. And we afterward made a trip to Michael's to get some of the finishing paraphernalia. And so here it is, all framed up. And I think it turned out really, really great. So simple frame, simple mat, but I think it's very effective. And I don't know if you want to add anything, Gary, or...
That was a fun piece to work on. It was... Well, I don't know.
Sorry, I put you on the spot.
Anyway, it's done. I'm doing another one. That one was deceptively. You think it's really easy, but it's actually slightly complicated. On a scale of 1 to 10, it was like around a 5. And that's only because if you do one page and then the next page, you've got to get and you decide to do the outline like I did, you got to get everything to line up. But other than that, that was a lot of fun to work with. I kind of want to raise the top and put in a caption because there's just not enough space for a caption now. I probably won't do that, but it would be kind of cool if there was one that you could put a caption in. Or maybe I'll just do it again and just make the top higher so that I can put some kind of caption in. Or maybe not. Anyway, it was fun to work on. I really like this kind of cross-stitch pattern. I am not traditional anything. Just not, never was, never will be. So I like this, and it's cool. Okay.
All done?
I got nothing else to say.
So this has a spot of honor all picked out already. Gary, those of you who watch us on the regular know that Gary is a big fan of action figures and has a nice little collection. And so in his office, he's got a shelf where some of those are on display. And so I think this is going to have a place of honor somewhere around the shelf so that all the comic book action figure type stuff kind of goes together. All right, so there you go. Where did this? All right, we'll just put it down here.
That's great.
That's great. Okay, next thing I have to share with you is I spent a week working on my fancy lady. So I am stitching Royal Holiday by Mirabilia. I'm stitching it on a 32 count Laurel linen and using all the called for flosses, which are primarily DMC and Krynic. And the last time you saw this design, I had mentioned that it was a bit, I just felt like it was a bit of a slog, and that feeling did not change this time around. Not to say that I'm not enjoying working on it, but it's just moving really, really slowly. And so there's not a lot of distinct elements to kind of reference as far as talking about progress, simply because at this point, you know, I'm working heavily in just the gown that the woman is wearing, and so it's just about getting that completed. So this is where she is right now. And I finished about maybe 1.5 diagonals on her. So when I picked her up this time, I had been working right around in here in the skirt. And so I finished down this diagonal, so I got a little bit more of her cloak. There's quite a bit of the whisper thread here. This one of the reasons why this one moves so slowly is there is a lot of whisper. There's a lot of whisper. And those of you who have worked with whisper know you have to use short strands, and even then sometimes it'll wear through, and it's just a slower pace of stitching when you use it. I think the effect of it is fantastic, so it's worth it, but it just slows you down a bit. So anyway, I finished down part of that diagonal. One thing I was really excited to get to, so you can see up on the hood of her cloak here, there's this golden tassel that hangs off, and I was really looking forward to getting that stitched in. So I was really pleased I was able to get that done. And then I'm almost finished. There's just a handful of stitches left to be able to finish off her glove. And then just continue working my way down through the skirt. So she's coming along. She's a slow mover, but I think that's true of a lot of these older Mirabilias where you forget just how big these ladies really are. They're just big girls, and they're beautiful, so they're worth it. But stop making that face, Gary. So anyway, this is where she is. I am doing this design as a stitch along with Sarah. As I've mentioned before, she is Stitch Addict on Instagram, and our hashtag is USNZ Royal Holiday Sal. I've received several messages from folks. One of them, Lynn, Lancashire Stitcher, I'm looking at you right now. But there are others among you who have this chart or who are getting this chart and want to stitch it. And so please allow us to enable you. We would love it if you joined us. I think the more the merrier. And so, yeah, this is where I am on this design. Okay, let's see here. The next piece I want to share with you is Gary's. So Gary is stitching a chart by Hannah's Needlecraft called To Market, and he is stitching this on a 16 count beautiful beige Aida. I should note that Hannah's Needlecraft is an Etsy shop. So the last time you saw this, well, first I can talk about it, but do you have anything you want to say, or should I? This is awkward.
You don't do this during the rehearsal.
I know.
So usually you just finish your description and then say, "What do you got, G?"
All right.
So if you want to break the pattern, that's cool. But
Good.
we should do that. Talk about that beforehand.
Yeah. Okay. The last time you saw this, it was a brand new start for Gary. And he had started stitching on, there's a little boy that, as you've seen in the picture that Gary has already put up, there's a little boy it's a line of people that are taking their various products to the local market. And so there's produce and there's animals. And so the first person in the line is a little boy, and he's carrying a basket of maize on his head. And so Gary had started stitching the little boy. He wasn't finished with the cross-stitching portion of that. So that's where he was the last time that he worked on it. And this is where he is right now.
Cue Gary.
Cue Gary.
So I didn't do this on this one, but there's another figure I'm going to do it on. But the little boy all the way over there, it looks totally different with the backstitch. These guys are prime examples of what a backstitch will look like. I don't know if I can get something for this when this video comes out, but definitely in the next video I'm going to compare and contrast what a piece looks like with the backstitching and what a piece looks like without backstitching. It's really a very different piece. What this one has taught me is to work in sections. So I started to work on her feet. The one next to her is like an older lady, I think maybe his mom, I don't know. But I worked on her feet, and then I worked on the purple part of her dress, and I'm just filling it in that way. And then once I have the dress all filled in, including those fancy stitches, whatever they are, I'm going to do the back stitch on that, and then I'll go up to the next section, finish that, and do the back stitch on that. Because one, you don't want to wait till the entire project is done to back stitch, and two, you don't want to wait until the entire piece of that project is done, because then all you're doing is back stitching. You're just going back and back stitching. It's a lot easier to do it in sections. But other than that, I like how this is turning out. I'm taking my time because it's going to be a present. So I don't know when it's going to get done. It looks like probably a Christmas present right now. But this one is challenging. I kind of feel like I'm a newbie, and it's kind of pushing a lot of skills that I don't have. Anyway, so that's where we are on that one. I don't know where it'll be, because I might sew for 2 days or cross stitch for 2 days, and then I won't touch it for a couple of days. So I don't know where I'll be. I'd like to be finished with the second person and moved on to the third one by the time we shoot again, but we'll see how that goes. But other than that, I really like how this looks. Again, with the back stitching, the guy looks like he's like an animation about to walk right off the page. But that's where I am.
Yeah. The only other thing I wanted to add to that, and Gary kind of referenced this in when he was just talking now, is that this lady, Gary is experiencing his first go at specialty stitches. So this yellow thread, you can see along the hemline of her skirt, there's some blank squares, and the chart calls for eyelet stitch there. And so Gary is having his first go at eyelet stitch, and so is learning how to do that now on top of cross stitch. And yeah, I think it's really fun that he has a chance to try something a little bit new there. Okay. Let's see. The last thing I have to show you as far as whips go is my travel stitching. I am stitching Seasons Autumn by Leela's Studio, and stitching it on a 32 count pecan Wexford linen by Silk Weaver. This is one that I had envisioned getting a lot more progress. Well, I'll get to that in a second. The last time you saw this, it was a brand new start. And so I had stitched the quilt, one of the quilt stars. I had stitched most of the first bird and had put in just a couple of leaves and some of the acorns. And so this is where it is right now. So as I was saying, I had envisioned making a lot more progress on this, and as I referenced at the top of the video, we've just been super busy, and my work has been exceptionally busy, and so it's just stitching time is down. I think this time of year is also busier, where there's more yard work, there's more social activities, especially this year. So just not as much time on this, but what I got accomplished, I finished stitching this bluebird, and I do have to say, I was kind of questioning, because those of you who saw our most recent video where we showed this as a start, I was telling you the birds in this design are actually supposed to be like a black, or like the cast iron skillet, and I opted to stitch mine in blue. And so I was not quite sure if I was going to be on board with that, but as I'm getting more of the design, and I'm actually really happy with that decision to make that a blue bird. So I finished stitching the bird. I've put in a couple more leaves, put in these great, I love these beautiful red berries. It's a gorgeous color. And I've stitched in more of this twig. I've also started the pumpkin down here, and I'm starting to stitch the outline of the cauldron that everything kind of sits in. So despite the fact that I'm moving slowly, this is just, I'm for some reason really, really enjoying working on this particular design. It's a lot of fun to work on. And I'm hoping, and I think reasonably the next couple of weeks, I have a chance of making some good progress on this. So we'll see, but at any rate, this is where it is now, and I really do love it. Okay. That's it for whips. The next thing I have to show you is actually a brand new start. So because I had a finish recently of my Hello Fall by Scarlet House, I am moving on to do a Valentine's stitch in my seasonal category. And I started Will You Be My Valentine by Thistles. This is a chart that Gary got me for Valentine's Day a year ago. And so I've been wanting to stitch it for a long time, and I'm glad I finally got to have a start on it. I am stitching it on 36 count Pearl Gray Edinburgh Linen by Zweigert, and I'm using all the called for flosses. So this is another one, and you guys often hear me say this, because I often think that I can accomplish more than I can reasonably accomplish. And so I had visions when I started this week. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get it done this week. And I think if I had the kind of stitching time that I would like to have, that would probably have happened. But it's just, I actually had a couple of days this week where I either didn't stitch at all or only got a handful of stitches in. So not as far along as I would have liked, but I'm really loving how it's looking so far. I like how the flosses are showing up on this fabric. So as you can see, I've stitched in almost all of the roses here. I need to finish this rose and then put in a little bud here. I've started on the little cart and have started a little bit on the border. And so I think it's an okay start. It's not a brilliant start, but it's an okay start. And I think that, you know, I'll have a chance at finishing this the next time it comes up. I'd like to think that I can get this finished the next time it comes up. But it's really cute. It's been really fun to work on this week, and I'm really liking it. I'm starting to think about how I want to finish it, and I'm debating between either a small framed finish or a pillow finish. So we shall see. But yeah, this is a really fun one. So there we go. Okay. Let's see. That is it for our stitching and where we are on our various projects right now. So we had a couple of questions that I wanted to make sure that we answered. And the first one came from Gail Fansler. She really likes the chart that Gary is stitching to market, and so was wondering where we got that. So Gail wanted to let you know that we purchased that directly from the designer from their Etsy shop, which I mentioned earlier is Hannah's Needlecraft. And I also wanted to just take this as an opportunity to let everybody know anytime we show a product or a design on this channel, I try to make sure that we include a link in the description box below so you can go directly to a place where you can purchase that, or directly to the designer's website. So if you ever see anything that you really like and you want to get your hands on, I encourage you to check the description box, because I know that I'm always, when I'm enabled by another stitcher on a Flosstube, want to know where I can get what they're showing. So check that out, and hopefully that link is easy for you to access and get to that shop. The next question came from Melba Burwell, and Melba is trying beading for the first time. So, welcome to the wonderful world of beading, Melba. I know some stitchers don't enjoy it. I personally really do. I really enjoy beading. I think it's a nice change of pace from cross stitching, and so I hope you enjoy it too. But she was asking about what size needles I use and if I have any suggestions for beading. So, wanted to share, and I actually just in the last probably year and a half have changed the beading needles that I use. So I used to use, I think it was a DMC, it was either a DMC or a Dritz beading needle, and it was really long, which could be, in some ways was nice to work with, and in other ways was really challenging, especially when you start getting to the end of the floss and you could get some more stitches in, but that needle is just so long, it's a little challenging. Anyway, so I changed a little about a year and a half ago, and I used the John James beading needles. These are a size 10, and it's a ballpoint bead embroidery needle. And this has worked really well for me. So it comes in a pack of 6. If you see this up close, you'll see that there are 5 still in the package. I'm a bit of a, I know a lot of stitchers have like keep a needle with each project and, or switch out to a new needle every time they start a new project. I am not that stitcher. I am a stitcher who will use a needle until it either gets lost, which very seldom happens. I'm really careful with my needles, or until it's no longer usable, it bends or it breaks. So I've been using the same beading needle on all of my projects for the last roughly year and a half, and have not had any problems with it. It is starting to get a little bent, so it's probably time to replace it. But I've found these to be great, and so I think you can easily find them at your local stitching shop, or if all else fails, you can get them on 1-2-3 Stitch. So that's for beading needles. Melba also asked, when working on Fancy Ladies, and you're working on the skin, do you do 1 thread over 1 or 2 threads over 1? So that's a really great question. And it might help if I bring out my Royal Holiday to talk about that. So a couple of thoughts. When you're stitching 1 over 1 for skin, so I should, like, as I mentioned, I think previously, this is a 32 count. I did the skin 1 over 1. I think if you want to do full cross to match the full crosses of the rest of the design, on the 1 over 1 skin, I would not use more than 1 strand of thread. I did stitch a design probably 15 years ago, and it was the first time I had done 1 over 1 skin. And it was a lavender and lace angel. And I didn't know that it was supposed to be 1 over 1. So I did 2 over 1. And I don't know if it was 28 count or 32 count, because I just didn't pay attention. I didn't keep track of my fabrics back then and keep records. But regardless, I did 2 over 1 full cross on either a 28 or a 32 count, and it was just too much. It was actually miserable to stitch, and I hated it so much that I was like, I don't know if I'll ever do over 1 skin again. And so in recent years, I've gone back to doing over 1 skin, and with full cross at least, I would not use more than 1 strand. Otherwise, it's just too bulky. If you want to do 2 strands, then I would do it as a half stitch rather than a full cross. So on my rose trellis in my full coverage piece, that is on 28 count, and I do it 2 over 1. So I'm doing 2 strands, but I'm only doing half stitches or continental tent stitches, and so there would be no way that I could. It would be so thick and bulky. It's already thick and bulky at 2 over 1, but there's no way I would be able to do it if it was full cross. So if you want to do half stitch and do 2 strands, the only thing I would caution you is to make sure that the direction of your half stitch is going in the same direction as the top leg of your full crosses. And I hope that makes sense. The reason I say that is when I started stitching on my Royal Holiday, as I was saying, I did full crosses for her skin, and I did them with the 1 over 1. And then as I started stitching down through her face, I found that one of the symbols called for a blended thread. And I was like, oh, I have to use 2. And so for me, the only solution to make that work without having a really bulky section of the face was to switch to a half cross. And the first section that I stitched, I didn't think about the direction of the stitch. And so you can't really tell looking at it straight on, but if you look at it from the side, the way that the light hits those threads versus the other threads is different, and it sticks out. There's a very clear patch where you can see the color looks wrong, and it's because the direction of the stitches, the light is hitting it differently and it stands out. So if you want to do 2/1 and do it as a half stitch, just make sure that the half stitch goes in the same direction as the top stitch of your full crosses, and then that would be fine. I hope that makes sense. Please let me know if it doesn't make sense and I can try and answer that better. Excuse me. So that is it for us today. We'll just wrap up quickly by telling you what we're going to be working on over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to put in one more day. I'm going to spend the rest of today working on my new start, the Will You Be My Valentine, and I'll see how much more I can get done on that before I put it away. Then this next week, I am going to work on Rose Trellis In for a week. I would love to think that I can finish that second row of pages. That's really not realistic. So we'll just see how much of that chunk I can get filled in. But I'm looking forward to moving on to a new row of pages soon. And then I will also spend a week working on my sampler, which is Feast of Friendship. Again, it might be a little bit overly ambitious, but I'm really hoping to push for a finish the next time that comes up. So looking forward to seeing if I can manage that as well before we see you again. And then finally, we'll be spending some time as I'm able to working on my travel stitching, which is the Seasons Autumn by Leila's Studio. Just kind of knowing what my schedule looks like over the next couple of weeks. I think I might actually have a shot at getting a little bit more done on that than I typically would. So I'm hoping to have good progress on that, but I don't want to jinx myself. And then, of course, Gary is going to be working on his To Market by Hannah's Needlecraft. And as he's already said, he's hoping to finish the second lady that he's working on right now and get started on the third person in the line. So with that, we hope that you are all doing well and that you're enjoying whatever it is that you're stitching on. Thank you to those of you who reach out over email. We really enjoy hearing from you. We had somebody that actually sent us a really funny cartoon with some captions for the Batman piece that we showed you earlier. So that was really fun to get an email for that. I'm also really enjoying seeing some of you send me pictures of things that you're working on, and I really enjoy seeing those. So thank you so much for sharing. We'd love it if you gave us a thumbs up on this video. It does help us with YouTube's algorithm. If you're not already a subscriber, we hope that you'll hit the subscribe button and come back to keep spending time with us. And of course, hit the little bell for notifications, so when we post a new video, you get an update on that. Again, as we always say, we enjoy your comments and interacting with you. You can follow me on Instagram between videos. I am globetrotting_stitcher, and you can send us an email at globetrottingstitcher@gmail.com. So with that, we hope that you are well. We hope that you are staying safe and stitching on all of the things that give you joy. And we are looking forward to spending some time with you again soon. Take care.